Good morning, live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 57. I am Roy Kessel, along with Caleb Bradham, your host from Sports Philanthropy Network. We're excited to have with us today two very special guests, Willie Buchanan and Rolf Benirschke. And Willie and Rolf are going to join us and talk about some of the incredible work that they're doing in the community, focused around very important issues. So Willie, Rolf, welcome to the show. We know that you both are legendary in your accomplishments on the field, and one of the things Kayla and I talk about frequently is how much more we're impressed by the work that people do after they're done with their playing careers. So but let's start with Willie. Tell us a little bit about why you're down here at Radio Row today and what you're working on.
Well, I'm down here on Radio Row. We did a heart study, and we have this this organization called a huddle, and the huddle was just what it was. It was a huddle. We got together with a bunch of my old teammates, and we went to a place in Irvine, and we did a screening for heart conditions. So it was a time that we could get together as a team, ex-teammates, and it was a time that we could actually get some education on heart conditions and strokes. And this is what we're talking about here on Media Row all week. And Rolf Benirschke was instrumental behind this because as a teammate, he pulled me into this program. And I'll let Rolf tell you.
Well, thanks, Willie. Thanks for having us on, you guys. Really, this is a treat. First of all, this is a legendary guy. This is a Packer Hall of Famer. And then we were lucky. He intercepted 4 balls against us with the Chargers back in the day, and we traded for him the next year. And so I got blessed because he became a teammate, and we played great games together. So we played in the late 70s and 80s. I played 10 years as a place kicker for the Chargers. Willie played 11 with the Packers and the Chargers. And we're both excited because our coach, Don Coryell, was just inducted in the Hall of Fame today. So that's a huge blessing for us that we're thrilled about. But we're here because of what Willie talked about, the huddle study that was created to try to understand heart disease amongst all of us. And for the people that don't know us, and I don't expect that you do, we played a long time ago. When I played, I went through a really difficult illness. I had Crohn's disease, needed surgery, had to wear an ostomy bag, but got to play again, played 10 seasons, and my life was changed just because of the opportunity to deflect attention on me and my illness to those who went through the same illness that I did. And it led to setting up a company that is involved with patient engagement, how to support patients going through different disease states, activating them to different clinical trials, working with pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies that are making products that benefit us. One of those companies was a company called Edwards Life Sciences that makes heart valves, most importantly, a TAVR procedure that keeps you from having to crack your chest when you have an aortic problem, but rather to go through the groin, this elegant procedure that replaces your valve and allows you to get out of the hospital the next day. It's unbelievably transformative. They had a struggle, though, because less than 4% of their patients were African American, and it killed them, broke their pick trying to figure that out, came to us and said, can you help? And so we did what Willie's did. We put together a pilot. We invited former teammates, 26 of them, to come up and get screened to learn about the symptoms of heart disease and stroke, and to get together. We hadn't seen each other, some of us, for 30 years. It was like, oh, dude, how are you doing? I can't believe you got 3 kids. No way.
It was fun.
It was so much fun.
Did you notice we all got old?
We all got old.
We all got old.
But there's a really cool outcome. So Willie came up with his wife, got screened, got educated, and I'm going to pass the story back to Willie. What happened, Willie?
Well, I got screened and basically I got educated behind the whole thing. And then 4 days later, I had a stroke. And because of the education that we got in the huddle, I realized what was going on. I realized the symptoms. And this is where we come up with the acronyms of FAST. Okay? We have an F in FAST.
FAST is, we want to remind you, this is what we were teaching. This is FAST, okay? These are the symptoms. F in FAST is
space.
So if you see somebody starting, their lips are drooping, their eyes are drooping, they don't know it, but you can recognize it. That's one of the symptoms. That's the F. A is
the arm, and that's where I felt the first symptoms. I was just pushing a suitcase into the closet, and my arm went numb for some reason. So
So pain in your arm or your chest for men is one of the really early indicators that you're having a stroke. For women, it's not always the arm. Sometimes it's the neck and back, but early symptoms of that. So the F is face, A is arm, S is
Speech.
speech. So again, we have a slurred speech, but we don't even know it. So that's another critical factor. And then the last one, T, is maybe the most critical.
And the critical part of that was time. And there's a time factor when certain things that you can get to at the hospital, and which helped me because of the time factor. I was able to get to the hospital. They were able to inject a solution in to clear up the blockage in my brain. So once I knew the symptoms from the huddle study, I knew exactly what called 911. So that's where we went.
So he did. He called 911. There's a window of about 2 hours. You got to break the clot down and get blood back to your brain. And Willie did. He's alive today because of
I'm
that.
a
And
blessing. I am
it's
a
an
miracle.
unbelievable blessing to all of us. So that was the first. So we then went on to do 9 more events, and we screened 500 players and their wives over 50. And almost every event, we ended up taking somebody to the ER. In fact, there's
Yes.
a brother here today who we screened about a month and a half ago, found that he had an aortic aneurysm. They took him right to the hospital, did an emergency surgery, saved his life. Next, he's having another ablation surgery today. They found other heart issues. And this guy had no symptoms, didn't have any idea, had never been screened. And because his wife encouraged him to go get screened, he's alive today.
Amen.
And what has come out of that is the opportunity for us as NFL players to educate each other first, take care of each other, and then to launch ambassadors back into their communities where they have influence, where they're recognized, they're icons, they're legends. They can take that knowledge and do something and help other people, and that's what we're here to talk about. We've been asked by NFL Alumni Health, the new wholly owned subsidiary of the NFL Alumni, to talk about this.
Amen.
So we've been up and down Radio Row. Willie's been sharing his story, and it brings tears to. I mean, I got to tell you, every time you hear it, I get emotional because I almost lost this guy had he not been there. And we right now have no African American offensive or
Or
defensive
defense.
linemen left alive. They're dying of things prematurely because they aren't educated. They don't go to the physicians. They don't know. And we're tired of that. This is a problem we have to change. Access, uh, all of those issues have to be addressed. And it starts with education. And so we so appreciate the
That's
chance
why
to be
we're
on
here.
here and tell the
Yeah.
story.
So, Rolf, Willie, I think it's interesting, and I'm blessed because AJ gave me some statistics on this so that we could be more prepared. So, some fun facts, right? And they're not so fun. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States, yet 72% of Americans don't believe they're at risk for a cardiovascular event. The other thing that really stood out to me, and again, this is me living in Milwaukee, right, in an urban, underserved community, but overcoming the trust deficit that might be contributing to undertreatment, that's what we were just talking about. Uh, Heart disease is more prevalent in the Black community. 60% of Black males and 59% of Black females suffer from some form of heart disease versus 54% of white males and 42% of white females. Deaths from heart disease are higher in Black Americans than in white Americans and other ethnic groups. Black Americans are 30% more likely to die from heart disease than non Hispanic whites. That's huge to me because I live in an urban underserved community where I know firsthand, I see it every day, that my hospitals and my clinics are not in access to where a very racially segregated
Amen.
city demographic lives. That right there is an issue if we're talking fast.
Yes, that
It's
is
a
an
huge
issue.
issue.
But that, like I said, in most situations, the Black population have a negative feeling about going to the doctors and getting tested and things like that. And we're trying to educate them and trying to be ambassadors in our communities now to do these things, and let them know and make them aware of what is actually going on. And as a football player, I tried to hide these symptoms of pain and stuff and things like that. Never wanted to come off the field. So we wanted to do a good thing, but I was fighting through pain, and now we don't have to do this. We need to learn how to trust our body now when it starts to you get the feelings on the symptoms.
I think what we've also learned in doing the studies is that the lack of trust is huge, and it's understandable, right? The things that have happened in a history have been repeated. When African Americans go to the hospital, they aren't treated well, so they don't go, and so they don't trust the system. And as much as we want to try to get them to change, we can't. But when Willie tells his story and our other players go back to their communities and tell their stories, we have to start trusting the system because the system wants to help. But we have to own some responsibility ourselves and get screened, know our numbers, be aware if we have high blood pressure, if we have diabetes, and then do something about it because there are opportunities to change that. But it's a process of education, breaking down the trust barriers, rebuilding that trust. And it's driven by us. We were teammates 40 years ago. It didn't matter the color of our skin. The locker room that we lived in was special. We wish the country could live like a locker room where it had nothing to do with that. It didn't matter your economic background, where you came from. What kind of a dude were you? Did you care about each other? Did you work hard? And that process has allowed us to have this relationship 40 years later.
Amen.
And then get to
Amen.
do something as a result.
Trust it.
So, guys, I want to say thank you so much for educating us. Willie, as I close us out, I'm going to ask you to hold up that big sign that you have as a great visual reminder. Guys, my name is Kayla Bradham. I'm here with Roy Kessel from Sports Philanthropy Network, taking a moment to sit down with Willie and Rolf and really learn more about heart disease. Remember that acronym FAST. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today for this very important message. And we want to remind each of you to live generously. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla. Thanks, Roy.